I am your soldier, I mean servant, and this is Power of the Daleks, written by David Whittaker. There.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the 49th production of an Unearthly Podcast, featuring Power of the Daleks, written by David Whittaker and starring Patrick Troughton, recording live on March 14th, 2014.
Yeah, so happy Pi Day to all of us here on Western Society. Hope you had some today. And for those of us, or for those of you listening to us in Japan, happy White Day. I hope you
My
got
pie
that.
is pepperoni.
Bill?
Pepperoni. And I hope you got that, those of you in Japan, I hope you got that special girl something special. Okay.
You and your pie.
I am the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt
Hello.
and Ronson.
Always a pleasure.
As always, you can find us on Twitch/MadMatt2185, YouTube/Man in Black Reviews, Facebook/Unearthly Podcast, and Twitter/Unearthly Pod. And of course, the various .coms in all of those.
And for those of you that were listening last week and found out we weren't here, I would like to apologize. I had something rather big dumped in my lap on Friday, and it wound up taking me all day to take care of. By the time I got around to being able to talk to these guys, it was near the end of our normal podcast time. So I apologize for that.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to the real Doctor Who news, we have some semi-podcast related news. Author Philip Sandifer of TARDIS Eruditorium has published, or at least sent out to his Kickstarter backers, the revised version of his book on the First Doctor, and my name is in the acknowledgments, so I am now a part of a published Doctor Who work.
Yay.
A kickstarted, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's just like the special thanks at the end of the Lord of the Rings stuff, isn't it? When Peter Jackson's thanked everybody that was in the fan club, essentially.
Pretty much.
Kind of, I guess. Although I'm sure that he asked for help with anything that he needed aid with, though, too.
So on to
I'm
our
talking about that huge, like, 10-minute wall of names at the end of the special edition.
Oh, okay. I didn't look at the credits back in those days, but I remember something similar when I was watching Iron Man 3 and I saw the special effects credits.
Oh, these aren't special effects credits. These were just special thanks to.
Yeah. But I just mean the special effects credits were pretty much 3 solid screens of names in the smallest font they could put on the credits.
They kind of have to these days.
There were hundreds of people doing the special effects for that movie.
Yeah. They probably need thousands of computers just to do it, too.
Yeah. So, we do have a bit of news because even though last episode was a very news-light episode,
it has been 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, and each of them had their own news because apparently BBC decided to say, fuck you for taking a week off.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So, our first bit here is of our Titan Comics, who has taken over Doctor Who from IDW, has revealed the covers of their 10th Doctor and 11th Doctor lines.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at these earlier today. Nothing really, spectacular.
Nothing overly spectacular, but at least they're not horrible.
No, they're not horrible. I'd have to see how the inner art is, to be honest.
One comment I'd like to make about them is that the backgrounds and the art style kind of remind me of the 60s Doctor Who openings, except in full 1960s psychedelic color.
To a minor possible
They didn't
degree.
bother
Yeah.
me that much. For me, it's the
No,
comic book.
I'm not saying.
He's not saying it's bad. It's just that it's actually got color.
I'm basically saying if it seems to me like an homage to, say, the Patrick Troughton opening.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure. I
effective.
wouldn't say the Troughton opening. The Troughton opening was all black and white.
Again, he said colorized.
And really wasn't that overly psychedelic compared to the first one.
But specifically looking at the Tenant one, the background reminds me a lot of the waving lines they had in those two openings, except if you added to them. That's why
it's
I kind of
possible
feel
that's where they got some of their motif.
Right.
It looks more like an Aurora Borealis to me, but that's me.
Aurora Borealis doesn't quite move like that, though.
No, but that's artist renditioning thereof.
Right.
But yeah, so it's the 10th and 11th Doctor in new series. Apparently they're giving 10 a new companion.
Head tilt.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that myself.
He does have enough gaps. I mean, if this is
technically he does have a lot of gaps, yes.
Yeah, if this is either between series 2 and 3, between 3 and 4, or between 4 and 4 5, you can.
The only real gap Tennant has is between the Christmas specials and the episodes. You can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a chunk between Runaway Bride and Smith and Jones.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's another chunk between Voyage of the Damned
and Partners in Crime.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
there's
between each special, you could fit anything
a lot of
you really
stuff.
Do. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the Doctor's big...
You could fit another special in between the specials, as Stephen Moffat has kindly done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of space there, because anytime the Doctor's on his own, you can pretty much specify any length of time.
Yeah. And we already know he's pretty much lying out his ass about his age, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of estimating that he's like 15 to 1700 now, based on Time of the Doctor. He might be pushing 2K.
Maybe. He seems to lie about more and more.
I still think more than that, just because, I mean, he was 1,000-ish when he regenerated to the 8th, and
he was...
Even though the idea of him restarting the numbering was something that is not in the show, it's kind of supported by the way the Doctors discuss amongst themselves afterward. For example, we can tell the War Doctor clearly lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, yet he claims to be younger in... what's the next time he mentions his age? That would be Aliens in London. He's younger than he was in Time in the Rani, according to him.
Yes.
So...
45 years younger.
Started counting again, yeah.
Or 43, yeah.
Lost continuity starting to back up again.
Right. And if you go by that, then that would mean that he's somewhere around 2,400 in Time of the Doctor. I feel older by the end of it.
Yeah.
True. Next article, then?
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a lot to go through.
This is interesting, and if anyone has seen an update of this, correct me, but they've announced a Region 1 of a BBC special before the Region 2 has been announced. And I feel like that's a strange thing to happen.
Actually, I'm not getting this link.
Yeah. I thought the next piece of news was the BBC 3 Deceased Broadcasting.
Did I skip a link?
I think you did.
Actually, okay, yeah.
I did skip a link. I always skip a link.
Yeah, the link you skipped is not working.
Oh, that's kind of weird. If you click latest news, you should be able to scroll down and find it, though.
I think you might have added a minus or something to the link, so therefore.
Oh.
So what would it be then?
Oh, yeah, I see the 2 dashes at the end. I don't know where they came from, but...
Is it the Kelly one? Or... What here?
It's here. Hang on, I'll have it for you in a second.
Yeah, for some.
Oh, Plan 55?
No, it's BBC Three to stop transmission. Try this one, Matt. There we
Something
go.
that happened with copying and pasting process killed it.
Yep.
Oh, and you know what happened? It was because it was a Skype was treating it as a quote, so it might have added something to it when it was copied and pasted that way.
Yep.
Because we discussed it a week ago and then copied and pasted it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got it now, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. No, we talked about this amongst ourselves during the half hour at the end there. But yeah, BBC Three has confirmed that it is no longer going to have any broadcast after the autumn of 2015. It is going entirely to a web-based channel, meaning it'll still exist. It'll be on the internet, and but it won't need to use any form of transmission towers or anything like that. This is particularly interesting because they estimate that will save them more than £50 million annually, and allow them to put 30 of that back into BBC One drama, which means some of that will trickle back into the Doctor Who budget.
Yes, and I would love for them to get some more budget back into that thing. Pretty pleased with sugar on top.
It really however, that is still a drop in the bucket. Because the BBC needs to save around £100 million after their license fee was frozen in 2010, which was 15% of their total budget. Now, we've talked about this on the podcast.
A little bit, yes.
How we noticed the graphics, BBC's no longer using the mill for their special effects. They're going with cheaper alternatives, and it shows, and they kind of have to because of this. Because of this this budget freeze. Now, Doctor Who isn't hit as badly as other BBC shows because Doctor Who is a co-production. So it's also getting money from BBC America.
Which is helping it a little bit.
Yeah, but BBC America is also a U.S. cable channel, and cable channels don't have the biggest budget either.
Unless they're HBO, it seems.
That's a premium channel, and that's different.
Yeah. Same with Showtime and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about
HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, the movie channel, Encore, Stars are all premium channels, meaning you have to pay extra on your cable to get them.
Right.
And technically, you do have to pay extra to get BBC America, but it's usually part of a package deal.
BBC America is a second tier, which means you're paying additional for a block of channels.
Yes.
But it's not considered a premium channel where you're basically paying through the nose for one channel.
Okay. See, as someone who doesn't get involved in paying for cable and probably never will because of things like Hulu and Netflix, I know none of it.
Oh, I should also say that some cable networks actually include BBC in their regular package.
Depends upon your cable network, yes.
Yes.
Not to mention, it's actually a good idea to get cable because their internet provider is also pretty fast.
And since we're talking about channels, I think I'm going to skip a few links ahead. If you guys see the link that's from horrorchannel.co.uk, which actually answers a question I had about this article. But classic Doctor Who is going to start airing on, I guess it's a UK channel, Horror Channel.
I could see that.
I can see that with a lot of their episodes, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of like the late third and early fourth Doctor episodes.
Oh yeah, especially
could be
early
classified
fourth.
More as horror than sci-fi.
I mean, the second Doctor era is essentially Monster Invasions, which is a subgenre of horror.
Yes, that too.
But I mean, the really the behind the sofa starts about with Terror of the Autons,
right,
and goes through, I would say, somewhere mid Leela. Probably Horror of Fang Rock is the last breath of that.
Kind of, sort of.
Oh, I must have misread this the first time because I thought they were airing the entire series, but it looks like there's 30 specific adventures from Classic Who that they're going to be airing.
Yeah, especially if they're hand-picking certain ones, then yeah, I can definitely see
then
it.
it'll definitely be the specific
Including the
one.
Mind Robber, the Daemons, Genesis of the Daleks, Talons of Wang Chiang, the Caves of Androzani.
What do you think they're going to pick for? Oh, there's a list.
There's a partial list. Yeah, the Caves of Androzani.
They said the first 7 Doctors, so I'm kind of wondering what they're going to pick for the first Doctor.
Yeah, I don't see one in there. I see the Mind Robber,
yeah, they don't
which is second. Yeah. The Daemons is third. Genesis is fourth. Talons is also fourth. The Caves of Androzani is fifth. Attack of the Cybermen is sixth, and Curse of Fenric is seventh. So they got 2 fourths, but they don't have a first.
The Daleks and the 10th Planet are.
Oh, they're going to start with an Unearthly Child.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Here's a question: Are they including 10,000 or 100,000 BC in that?
That's usually listed with an Unearthly Child.
Yeah.
That usually is.
They're not listed separately. When you purchase the DVD, it's called an Unearthly Child, and it has both of those in there.
I mean,
so, folks, if you really want a really good first episode and a boring couple of episodes afterwards, here you go.
Yeah, the Tribe of Gum.
They're not necessarily obliged to play them together. I could see them doing a television version of, say, the first Doctor Who movie, where they start with Unearthly Child and then roll straight into the Daleks.
Yeah, but it's actually those days the stories were fairly linear and continuous. The episode would end with the pre-bump to the next one.
Oh yeah, but you could still edit that just right and just go right into Dalek.
That's true, but people still marathon it, skipping out 100,000 BC sometimes without really. I mean, you do lose a bit of character development, and I personally would not do that. But I would not be shocked by any network or person that did that.
I can't machete order it. I'm sorry.
We'll sit you through Tribe of Gum again, Randy, and then we'll see what you think about it.
I've watched that one 15 times, Matt. Another watch is not going to stop me.
That story is blander than freaking crackers on white freaking rice. Oh.
Hey. Remember, we decided that there were other First Doctor stories that were more boring than Tribe of Gum.
Gunfighters.
Well, there are other stories that were dumber, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Zarby.
Yeah.
Do I need to go on? Okay, so since we're kind of machete ordering the news. The concept that we mentioned of bandwidth brought up something that I wanted to bring up, and that is the fact that
bandwidth?
We mentioned bandwidth right before you jumped to Horror Channel, yes.
We did?
Yes.
I'll take your word for it. Apparently I was not paying attention.
Apparently you weren't. And the news there is actually, I don't even see this on your list.
Yeah. I don't see it on the list. I don't know how.
It's a little above. Planet 55 may leave Australia, and that is Planet 55 is the people that have been doing the more recent animations, including Reign of Terror and 10th Planet. And they told the Senate Select Subcommittee for the National Broadband Network that the lack of bandwidth is going to cause them to move from New South Wales to the UK.
Now,
and
does that mean that internet in Australia is government run?
Yeah, essentially.
Yes.
I have actually talked to my friend in Australia on this, and the bandwidth in Australia is horrible. And the bandwidth restrictions are horrible. My friend could literally, you basically, when you pay for a service provider, you get a monthly allotment of bandwidth, and then they throttle you down. and it's like something like 30 gigabits per or 30 gigabit total per month.
Now, from what I understand properly, because of like contracts of who can release what in Australia, they also like extra police various file sharing sites to make sure that things that aren't released in Australia don't end up being downloaded by Australians. Is that right?
I'm not even going into the concept
of that. No, we don't know, to be honest.
This isn't anything regarding this. This is just max bandwidth usage per household.
Right.
And that's private. I'm pretty sure business gets a higher rate, but still, you got to figure that these guys are moving uncompressed video of half hour in length up and down from there to the United Kingdom, which is the complete other side of the planet. So basically, they have to route pipe from Australia through the United States and from the United States to England. Or they have to do it by satellite transfer. Either way, which, by the way, that's going to be slower than hell. Either way, it's either very expensive or very slow. And if there is a maximum data cap for businesses, they're hitting that and getting throttled.
On a weekly basis, I would assume, almost.
Yeah, I would assume. And that's not working well.
Yeah, you can't be having that.
And yeah, they're at the moment, it's going to cost them about $1 million Australian to transfer, which they would rather not, because they would be able to train more talent and spend it on animators. But they're thinking of relocating to Cardiff.
If things don't get fixed.
Yeah.
So officially, big business for you, Australia, is telling you you need to lighten it up.
Yeah, well, I can see part of it. I mean,
otherwise they're getting out there and there's less of their own talent there.
Well, Australia as a country is pretty isolated. The United States technically is too, if you consider the United States to essentially be North America. In the aspect of connection speed, I mean, we can connect to Canada relatively easy. We can connect to Mexico relatively easy. We connect anywhere beyond Mexico and Canada, we're isolated. But the United States has put down enough fiber optic cable in the ocean that that's not an issue. Australia hasn't yet. They've got some links down there, but they don't have as many as North America. Not by a long shot. So they're literally limited by the maximum amount of upload, download that is going in and out of the country. So I think that might be part of the issue. I don't know if it's the entire issue, but that's probably a good chunk of it. Okay, so we've covered a couple of things. Let's see. What else we got?
I had mentioned, but we had stopped because I was accidentally skipping ahead about the Blu-ray release of An Adventure in Time and Space. Except
Adventure
I think I
in
referred to
Space
it as a
and Time,
DVD. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
It's Region 1 Blu-ray, so...
And
that's actually cool.
No, I'm harping on that, but the fact that it's a Region 1 without the Region 2 having been announced, kind of shocking considering it's something created by the BBC.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's also...
for that?
Not that I've seen. It depends on who's actually doing it. Generally, Doctor Who releases are done by 2 Entertain, which is a London company. And they'll, of course, release Region 2 UK first before releasing before doing the re-encode for Region 1. Mm-hmm. Back before 2 Entertain, Doctor Who was released, I think, through Warner Brothers DVD. That sounds right to me. But once the new series came out and was successful, 2 Entertain took over everything, and I think 2 Entertain is basically the BBC's output go-to people for DVDs.
Yeah.
Like exclusive license kind of thing.
Usually is, at least.
So it might be that this one's released independently because I do not see a 2 Entertain logo on the prototype box.
Yep. It just says
wondering
BBC. So BBC might have thrown the money into it to try and make it their own this time.
Oh, I'm looking, apparently on disc 2 is the pilot as well as the first serial, so as we were discussing, An Unearthly Child along with 100,000 BC. And it looks like there's both the Blu-ray and DVD included in the package.
Okay, yeah, it might be the difference that they just wanted to get the Blu-ray out there. Blu-ray is kind of the way things are going. Kind of the revolution has finally hit, so we're going to be seeing more and more Blu-ray only releases, and slowly
I think that is kind
DVDs.
of interesting, having the Blu-ray and DVD together, so that way if you only have a DVD player now, you can buy it, and you'll still have that Blu-ray for when you go ahead and finally catch up with Blu-ray players. Yeah,
that's referred to as a hybrid release, is what they call them in the business, is hybrid. And I've been getting a lot of those for the convention, but I'm seeing some stuff now that's coming out Blu-ray only. One of my favorite anime series, actually my favorite anime series, is being remastered and re-released on Blu-ray starting this month.
You hear that, PlayStation 3? You're gonna have a use again.
Well, if you look at the price of Blu-ray players, they're down to affordable now.
That's the same thing that happened with DVD, because I remember when the PS2 came out, a DVD player was going like $4, and the cheapest way to watch them was to buy a PS2. Within a couple of years of the PS2 becoming popular, DVD players plummeted in price.
Yeah, and it's happening with Blu-ray now, as they're no longer on the techno edge, so they're down to about $50 now. And it's still about $100 for the smart players that you can also connect to like Netflix and stuff on.
I still have to look up at my VHS tapes of The Record of Lois War that I never finished watching and sigh.
Right.
Yeah.
My VCR literally died just before I could even get onto tape 2.
You realize, Matt, that I converted entirely over to DVD almost 10 years ago now.
Screw you, dude. I still have like 3 movies of Godzilla on VHS right now.
Actually, no,
4.
I have a very small VHS collection of stuff I could no longer afford to repurchase on DVD.
I'm at the point right now where I have equal amounts of VHS and DVD, and since my VCR just died, I'm contemplating either buying a new VCR at the thrift store or saying fuck it and starting with more DVDs.
I would go the latter, although at this point you're going to be behind the curve anyway, because this is the point people are going to Blu-rays.
But it's also the point that my collection of DVDs will zoom through the roof.
And really the concept of owning media is becoming smaller and smaller all the time with services like Netflix and digital download companies. It's really...
I'm sorry, no, I still want to watch stuff when I want to without commercials, and I'm not paying extra money for it.
My DVD player is my DVD collection is so small at this point.
Matt, you didn't hear the concept digital downloads. And I'm not talking illegal downloads. I'm talking about you buy a DVD these days, there's usually a code in it for you to digitally download it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where do I keep it when I'm done watching it? Because I'm definitely not deleting it because it's not going to be there forever.
Hard drive space is cheap, Matt.
You say cheap, and you still don't know my budget, man, which is dirt cheap.
Yeah, well, when you can buy...
It's probably cheaper to buy a terabyte hard drive than a Blu-ray nowadays.
Just about. Seriously, Matt, you can get a terabyte hard drive for under $100, and that's a terabyte drive. Anything
for
less
under
than that,
$100.
and it's exponentially cheaper. You can get 250 meg thumb drives now for a $5.
Tell me when we can get 1 terabyte drives for $25, then I'll be interested and possibly be able to get into the bleeding fray.
I would say within
Until
2
then,
years, Matt.
no.
I will predict 2 years for that.
Because then I can actually keep my computer going then, because right now it's starting to get a bit crowded lately.
If it's in 2 years, people will be storing it on their hoverboards and won't have time for that shit.
Smack.
Of course, pretty soon you'll just be able to...
I smite you, Bill, because they
off of
tried lying to us about the hoverboards already. Don't you dare lie to our audience.
Do you want to do
loud?
Back to the Future is full of lies and deceit.
Okay, so moving on. There's 2 pieces of direct Doctor Who news. The earliest one is the fact that Steve Thompson is confirmed as a writer for Series 8 episode, in particular Series 8 episode 5.
So Steve Thompson, you might know as the writer of Curse of the Fatal Spot.
Curse of the Black Spot.
Black Spot. Oh no, sorry, Fatal
Curse of the
Death,
Black
not
Spot,
Black.
and the
Their names
infamous
must be
Journey to
similar.
the Center of the TARDIS,
Yeah.
which
I don't know. I kind of refuse to believe that was written by a human. I believe it was written by someone put a million monkeys in a room and assumed they would produce the work of Shakespeare, and they produced that instead.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he wrote that over the course of a 24-hour period without sleep, and Moffat looked at it and went, run it.
Without actually editing, yes.
Curse of the Black Spot was not bad. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just kind of there. It's not going to be on my top list of Doctor Who episodes to watch.
But it's
However,
not on my list of episodes to completely scorn either.
Right.
And along the same line, he wrote the Series 2 closer for Sherlock, and I believe the second episode of Series 3. Sherlock fans would probably, granted there are varying opinions, but most people would not despise either of those episodes the way we do Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
So he has one black spot on his record, no pun intended. Oh, yeah, okay, pun intended.
Smack you.
But I'm willing to give him a chance, I don't want to see him as showrunner right now.
Definitely not with
the
Mark recently as his last bit of work for us, yeah.
I'm kind of on a 3-strike policy. He has 1 strike right now.
If he fails this one, it's a 2nd strike.
If he fails a 3rd one, time to not hire him again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other piece of related Doctor Who news is a casting decision on... Did you not put this one in there, too?
No, I have it. Kelly?
Oh, wait, there it is, yeah. Keely Hawes to star as a Doctor Who villain who's apparently a banker.
Is it the Entertainment Arts one?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And we're not sure what episode.
Actually, it's the same episode that we were just talking about.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, because they are. I think they're actually currently filming.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they're currently filming this episode. I saw that as a piece of news,
but didn't include it.
Yeah, it is part of must be the 2nd filming block, because they usually film 3 episodes at a time.
And I think this is episode 5 as well, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Because usually it'll be like 1, 2, 3. Occasionally they'll swap over, like it'll be 1, 2, 4 or something like that. But we know last month they were doing the 1st filming block.
Occasionally they'll film in random order and then release them in different orders in different countries so that people always argue about which serial came first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because actually I know one of Billy Piper's last scenes as, full-on companion was actually one for Satan Pit.
I think Angels Take Manhattan was filmed before Power of Three as well, if I'm thinking right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's due to availability of sets and or locations.
Right. Yeah.
I know when they did Series 4, they had to postpone the filming block for Fires of Pompeii due to the studio that they were going to film it in Italy caught fire and destroyed the sets they were going to be using.
Now, if only they had filmed, if they had filmed with the real fire, they could have gone for an authenticity thing.
Oh, that's bad, because this was a bad fire.
Yeah.
It was huge. I mean, the sets that were used for that episode, Fires of Pompeii, if you haven't figured it out, were the same sets that was used for the BBC production Rome. And apparently there was an electrical fire on the set that basically caused the entire thing to go up in minutes. And the flames were like 25 feet high.
I think they need to learn to fire-prone that shit, man.
My style as a creator would be to be like, hold on, get the camera.
Yeah, seriously, if you want to know about it, Google 2007 Cinecittà fire.
You're missing one thing, Bill. You need some music like this.
And this was literally Doctor Who was supposed to be there, I think, the week after.
Ah.
And they had to postpone it by a month for them to clean up the fire. This, by the way, is the same studio that Ben-Hur was filmed in. You know, the classic.
Speaking of Fires of Pompeii, that episode was the first episode of both Karen Gillan and Peter Capaldi. So that means those of you with nothing to do, watch this episode and try to find out who the next person to become a regular actor on Doctor Who from Fires of Pompeii will be.
Well,
Randy's head.
Karen Gillan directly got hired because of Fires of Pompeii. Literally, the casting and production staff basically hand-fed her to Moffat because of her acting in that particular role. Capaldi, I think, was coincidental.
Was that how?
Because I think he landed the role after his stint on that political sitcom that he was doing for a few years that landed him a lot of applaud.
Was that how Agyeman got the role? Do you know? Like if
yes,
it was
that is how Agyeman got the role. That is also how
in the series 2 finale.
What's her face? Gwen Cooper got her role too. Was from her scenes in Unquiet Dead.
Now that you say that, I can't remember her name. Although her name is not as
it's also a long tradition because it's also how Nyssa got landed as a regular companion.
Also, Maxil later became the Sixth Doctor.
Jamie got landed as a regular companion. Both of them went into their original serials, not intending to be past the serial, and both of them were liked enough that they were continued on.
Nicholas Courtney was intended to be a one-off character who was then killed, and then he was brought back as a first recurring character, then essentially companion.
Mm-hmm. Of course, these days it's a little different that they're not continuing in the same character; they're continuing in a different role, just the same actor.
Nicholas Courtney did the same thing. His character was killed in his first appearance, and then they brought him back.
And he was also from the future.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah, but I was talking. You were talking about the Brig originally.
Well, yeah, Nicholas Courtney.
Mm-hmm. No, his first appearance was in what? Galaxy 5?
Yeah.
No, it was...
Or the Sensorites?
No, was it the Dalek Plan?
Dalek's Master Plan.
Yeah.
Dalek's Master Plan.
Dalek's Master Plan, they killed him there. Then they brought him back as a recurring character as Colonel Lethbridge Stewart?
Something like that.
And then...
Wait, Brigadier... Yeah, something like that.
And then, the next time they brought him back, he was Brigadier, and he's been Brigadier since, until he retired.
Yeah, Colonel to Brigadier General, that sounds right.
Yeah, that would be right in the actual military. I just don't know how linear Doctor Who was with it.
They did. I think that's how they did do it that way.
What have we passed over?
So yeah, that's a lot of stuff that gets redone that way. But so yeah, so they're now in the second filming block. We've gotten no new pictures, by the way. Let's see, what else do we have?
Two remaining pieces of articles. So do you want to go with the children's toys or the unhappy time?
Let's go with the unhappy one first.
Well, let's deal with the yeah. Let's get that one out of the way. And it's only a little bit of unhappy. We are sad to report that actor James Ellis.
Yeah.
One at a time.
Yeah, of death.
Go ahead, Randy. You're
of
more appropriate.
Tradition of death. Yes, we are sad to report that actor James Ellis died at the age of 82 on March 8th. He was the person that played Peter Wormsley, the archaeologist in the 89 Doctor Who story Battlefield. That is his only Doctor Who appearance, is in that serial. And he was good. I liked him in that. He was a nice, likable character. And he did die at 82, which is a good run.
And apparently throughout the first four Doctor's roles, he was appearing in 565 episodes of Z-Cars.
Z-Cars, yes, indeed. A few of those episodes are lost to time, too. Yeah, it's not just Doctor Who that disappeared. There's several series that aired in the 50s and 60s from BBC television that are lost, Z-Cars being one of them.
Aren't the original Quatermass serials from the 50s also lost?
I believe so. At least some of them.
Probably bits and pieces, yeah. They didn't seem to completely eradicate everything.
The original Quatermass stuff was mini-series, so they've got like episode 2 and episode 5, and I think they might have a complete serial of 1.
You know, if we were to go back and write a different special for the 50th, I kind of feel like it would be interesting if they had like an episode where a Cybermen attack or some monster attack pretty much attacked the BBC and destroyed old television episodes or something as kind of an homage to
something happened. Page got ripped and it caused the snafu that caused all the tapes to be destroyed.
Or just have them like attacking a certain building, and when we get inside, it's the storage bins where these things were meant to still be at.
Right.
And that would be like an in-universe reason why we can't have these tapes.
I would do with that if they had died in an epic fire. If there had been a horrific fire at BBC that had caused those tapes to burn instead of a bureaucratic snafu. Because what caused those tapes to be lost is a bureaucratic snafu. Literally, the right hand thought the left hand were keeping their copies, and the left hand thought the right hand were keeping their copies, so both destroyed them.
Oh, wow.
And so the only ones that came out were copies that were distributed out and didn't come back, or people that thought no one will miss it if I pinch this particular reel or that particular reel before we destroy them. So that's where we're getting these recovered lost episodes from, are from thieves and from distributors that never returned them.
I don't know if you necessarily... I mean, at least for the ones you described, I wouldn't necessarily say thieves, like the ones where they're basically like, well, this is being destroyed. Well,
this is being destroyed, no one's going to miss it.
Kind of trash can.
Except for that was technically illegal for them to do so.
Technically, sure, but I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations is off on them by now.
It doesn't make them not a thief, it just makes them non-prosecutable.
They're an alleged thief. They're not a thief until they've been prosecuted.
I'm with Bill on this one.
Hey, it's a good thing they did steal them.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And I'm hoping that somebody stole every one of them.
We can only hope, and they're being very stingy. So.
And our other piece of news then is Actually, Randy, you brought this to us. Did you want to talk about this one then, or?
Yes. Let's see. It was very recently that LEGO announced they would be accepting Doctor Who submissions on their Kuso site. On Thursday, a collaborative Who project reached 10,000 supporters, meaning LEGO will now officially review and consider the set. This review is due to take place between May and September, and if successful, we will have LEGO Doctor Who.
And if that continues to be successful, we can almost guarantee a LEGO Doctor Who video game, which means that the States will finally have a freaking Doctor Who game of some description.
That's not freaking fake MMO puzzle game.
Yes.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Which is now dead.
Which is not dead, like it deserves.
That was erased from time and space.
And good riddance. Anyway, yes, LEGO Doctor Who. Now,
and using the sock screwdriver to build things, I can see that.
One thing that's a LEGO update explained the process in full. We're looking forward to considering this project in the LEGO review, but for now an excuse while we go make an electroshock device, just in case this really is a nesting plot to take over the world via toy factory. And yes, this means I do actually want LEGO Autons.
Yes.
Just the meta of it would be amazing.
Well, you can easily do it. You just make a slightly bigger than normal LEGO body and then just add a huge head to it.
And then Auton Episode 4 comes out, and it's a co-production with LEGO.
When LEGO... You realize that would be the ultimate inside marketing? And I really hope the Doctor Who production staff listens to this.
Yes.
If they do this.
Forget behind the sofa. Do you realize how many households just have Legos littering the floor that are already deadly traps to step on?
Now imagine you walking across these Legos and they basically reach out, grab you, and drag you into the closet.
Or even you go to leave the house and all of a sudden you realize that your Lego toys that were in a box upstairs are now a minefield blocking your door.
This would be epic. I actually want to write this now. This may become a fiction episode that I write.
Because the Legos are actually controlled by an esteemed consciousness and they're attacking.
Mm-hmm. I like this concept. I'm glad to be a part of it.
That's more of what Torchwood should have had.
There's got to be a sequence where they tie someone down like Gulliver's Travels.
I don't know. I'm going to have to think on this one for a while now.
Now, on this specific Lego design, I kind of think that Rose and Tennant are by far the actual best designed ones in this particular gallery.
Again, this is just pictures. I'm not sure where these pictures actually come from.
They're basically design ideas at this point.
Yeah, they're not
None
like
of
official
what we may
things
see
yet.
may actually make it to being on the shelf.
Yeah.
I'm saying of all the designs we're looking at, the ones that I think are best are Rose, Tennant, and Jack.
I don't know. I really like the Tom Baker face design.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, the only thing with the Tom Baker, I mean, as we kind of discussed before we started streaming, the Tom Baker one seems rather incomplete. It's a mishmash of various costume bits.
Well, just by looking at the hat, I can tell you that that hat doesn't actually belong on that image. It seems to be something that was just put there.
Yeah, but that face with that grin, that's just great. And some of them you really can you can only barely tell who they're supposed to be. We spent 3 minutes trying to figure out if that was supposed to be Capaldi or if it was supposed to be John Pertwee.
And we're still undecided.
Until we realized they were all new era doctors, so that has to be Capaldi. Jack looks okay. I could tell it was Jack at first glance, but a lot of the females are kind of which one, what one's who.
Right.
Which one's Donna, which one's...
Well, I could tell which one was Donna pretty quickly, to be honest. I could tell the top one on the right was her.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that one? or is it the lower left?
I'm pretty sure it's the upper right one.
Because she had longer hair, so yeah.
Depending upon what time, though.
I think looking at the clothing that the upper right one does make me feel like that's something Donna would wear. I don't know why, but it's...
I don't remember her wearing it. I do remember her wearing something that was like in the lower right, so I don't know.
I don't remember her wearing
left,
something like in the lower right.
Or
So
lower left, yes.
Lower
yeah,
left,
because if you go by the lower right, that would mean she was a Cyberman.
Yeah, she's...
Not quite.
No, you see, actually, that's Jackie Tyler there. Just saying.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yarg.
I see what you did there.
I saw what you did there, Vegeta.
Yeah. I actually do want to see Lego Doctor Who. I think it would be awesome.
It'll be something to go alongside my Lego Lord of the Rings right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably... I might...
Have we
I
had
might
Lego
have
Star
to go
Trek?
back to Legos.
Have we had Lego Star Trek?
Lego Star Trek?
Because I know we've had Lego Star Wars.
Not officially, no. Not Lego Star Trek.
Huh. Yeah. Because
I
I know
have
we've
to
had
look that up
Legos.
because I can't imagine that Lego's gone this long without doing an Enterprise.
I'm sure fans have made an Enterprise, but not officially, no.
Hell, I made a Lego Enterprise, but that was years ago.
I think...
You just get like 5 or 6 Star Wars kits and start butchering it and making your own. And then you get a Star Trek Lego kit.
No, it's also on the licensed property list, so it's looking into.
So they're looking into it, but they still haven't done it yet.
No, they reviewed it and they decided not to do a publication on it.
I'm seeing a I guess a Lego knockoff that did
it might have been someone else who might have beat them to the knockoff idea at least.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's why they pulled back.
Oh, I guess it's something owned by Hasbro called Creo.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not official Lego.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Lego hasn't done anything.
No Lego Star Trek. No
So no Lego Star Trek game.
But we have had Lego Star Wars, we've had Lego Lord of the Rings, we've had Lego Batman, I'm pretty sure. We've had some Lego Marvel stuff.
We had Lego DC.
I know there's been Lego Batman because he was in the movie, because when I took the What Batman Are You quiz, I got Lego Batman.
I got no parents!
I don't know how to take that, Bill. I honestly don't.
I've never watched the Lego movie, so I have no idea what that Batman is like.
He's hilarious, from what I understand. He's a standout character in that movie, apparently, for all the good reasons.
Who
But
voices him?
I forget, but he does a pretty semi-decent Conroy. Attempt at Conroy. When you have a Batman who throws about 5 or 6 batarangs and finally hits the button and then goes, God, the first time, and drives off, yeah.
See, the way they kind of described it was that he was like other he was like the Conroy, except that you could tell he enjoyed being Batman and being badass in black.
Will Arnett is apparently who did the voice of Lego Batman.
Yeah, he's a very comical version of the Conroy Batman. But again, for the good reasons, not any bad reasons. For all the good reasons.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if he'd actually done Batman before.
I don't think so that I'm aware of. I think this was his first try at it, and he did really well. So, all the more kudos to him. Yeah. He might get a few more things to do with DC down the line.
I was just curious if they got the guy who did Arkham Origins. But no.
Doesn't Conroy do those games?
He did the first 2. He did not do Origins. Neither did Mark Hamill do Joker for it. But
yeah,
the guys
I knew that because
did,
Mark Hamill officially retired after 2.
Yep. And apparently Conroy retired with him.
Oh.
Anyway, the guys they did do very uncanny imitations of both of them. If you listen very closely, you can tell it's not them, but if you weren't really listening, you'd be pretty well convinced it was.
Kind of like that guy that did a very Hamill-esque voice when they were doing it was an on YouTube reading of
Pegerts, yeah. Pegerts, yeah. Yeah, I was actually wondering originally if they'd actually gotten him to do the voice, but no, they got a professional.
Or like that one guy who did YouTube videos, and he redid some of the stuff like Red Hood with his Hamill voice.
That's Pegerts, yeah. He's also the guy that does the Joker on the Batman Abridged series.
I sure like their Alfred. Anyway.
Yep. I think we're about done with the news then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So that would bring us full circle back to our review for tonight.
Yep.
Batteries of the Daleks.
I believe it's Power, Bill. Power of the Daleks. Technically, it's about their batteries.
Well, considering they're basically, the big thing is that they're sucking power out of a generator, yeah. Who wants to do a summary? Not it.
Can you handle this one, Bill? Because I seem to help you a lot with these.
That's because my brain does not perceive time in a linear manner.
Your brain will not hold the memories.
It's all a big ball of wibbly wobbly, plotty waddy stuff.
Fine, I guess I'll just give it a try. I'll give a go with what I can recall. So
I was going to read it from the TARDIS data core.
Slap.
Bad bill. Copyright infringement.
No, I was going to credit them properly.
Bad bill.
You didn't ask them. Can't technically do that. But in extremely shorthand, just to move things on a bit, because I'm sure we actually have other topics to talk about with this one in particular. So we're starting off right away after the regeneration at the end of 10th Planet, which I might add, I think this happens fairly close to the middle of the season.
This 10th Planet was the second
at least a couple stories
in.
No,
it was Smugglers.
Oh, so it's just a little way past the halfway point.
Yeah, this was the finale for that season.
So the rather unusual and sudden finale.
I thought this was the third serial of the season.
I was thinking this was the fourth one myself, so I wasn't totally sure.
Smugglers, 10th Planet, Power of the Daleks, and then there was Highlanders and a few others, and then the season ended with Evil of the Daleks.
Oh wow! This was back when they were doing huge seasons.
Yeah.
Yes, this was. So yeah, this was towards more or less the beginning middle of the season. Patrick Troughton has officially become the Doctor. The Doctor is not entirely sure about himself and even doesn't refer to himself as the Doctor at this point. The new Doctor checks out some stuff in a trunk. He even looks at a reflection of himself and sees the First for a few moments. As the Doctor is still getting used to what's going on around him and trying to collect his thoughts, he takes quite quickly to a stovepipe hat and a flute, I believe it was? Or a recorder. Recorder, yes. After a few moments, he comes to the realization that there's still technically a movement and that they need to finish landing somewhere, and he wants to stretch his legs and continue to get used to things. Upon landing, they realize they're in a swamp while the Doctor, in the TARDIS, found his original diary and is paging through it, trying to remember everything. Upon doing so, he does do his first comical bit where he apparently manages to avoid a few large sulfurous pits, looks back in mild amusement, and continues to walk on. While the Doctor is roaming about, The companions, names are escaping me now. I hate names.
Ben and Polly.
Ben and Polly are also trying to keep up with the Doctor, while still arguing amongst themselves as to whether or not it actually is the Doctor. He has all the clothing and everything, but his mannerisms and his appearance are very much changed. While they try to keep up, a cloud of the gas in the swamp comes up and actually starts to knock the both of them out. At the same time, the Doctor encounters a wounded man in the swamps, who is then promptly shot before the Doctor himself is knocked out, and left with, I believe, the insignia from the person who was killed. Some people come to rescue the Doctor and Ben and Polly, and they believe him to be... they believe him to be from Earth, but I can't remember the name. It's been over a week.
What do you mean?
What they refer to him as.
Oh, an inspector.
The inspector, yeah. The inspector from Earth. So, evidently, the person who died before the Doctor was the real inspector. Plot thickens as the lot of them figure out that the inspector was summoned by someone within the settlement on this planet, but no one actually summoned him or is coming forth with the fact that they summoned the inspector for help. And then there's a variety of things going on. First of all, the Doctor gets also involved with the fact that they recently found a pod that they're trying to get into that was apparently crash landed on the planet many, many years before even the settlement was there. They get inside, and by looking at some of the metals, they realize that one of the things sitting around, the Doctor already has a copy of while searching through the first Doctor's items. The second Doctor instantly knowing, and thus trying to introduce him as being the Doctor, that the piece of metal was actually a key, and it's a key to something made by the Daleks. Going back to the pod, the Doctor shows the companions that it is in fact the Daleks by using the key to unlock a door and finding 3 Daleks just standing there unmoving. They try to figure out a way to try and convince everyone that the Daleks are in fact an actual danger, whereas the scientist who has been involved in trying to unearth the Daleks has actually contacted the Daleks by himself, more or less, first, and is convinced that they are only robots and that they are there to serve, most likely due to the fact that the Daleks are still able to hear what's going on outside of their shells, power or not. So they decided to play along with the game and act like they were robots and not actually living creatures inside of robotic suits. To which we actually do get a rather nice eerie cliffhanger where we do have one of the scientists bring in one of the Daleks to show off what it was capable of. Also, for the first time, actually talking, while its eye stalk focuses on the Doctor while constantly saying, "I am your servant," while slowly closing in on him, I believe. It's hard to tell for sure what all the details were in this because these are missing episodes, technically, but it's what they kind of represented in the still image video that I was able to watch. Unable to convince anyone that the Daleks are a threat originally, the Doctor, still pretending to be Inspector, is roaming about trying to put all the clues together. While doing so, the person who was actually responsible for calling the Inspector is pinned down as being a terrorist, I believe they called them. The resistance, something like that. Part of a resistance group.
Part of the rebel group or resistance group.
Yeah, the rebel resistance group within the people there, and he's wrongly accused. Although the rebels aren't. It's kind of hard to describe what the rebels are actually rebelling against because they don't really seem to be doing much. A little sabotage here and there, and they don't seem to have a real cause.
I believe that weren't they puppets of the governor to make him look better by defeating them, or something like that?
Yeah, that's technically what they were pretty much set up to be. The third guy in charge was actually responsible for making the rebels, and was also planning to use them to make himself look better in the end by crushing them. So it was all part of a bigger ploy for him to take power, and also to remove the second in command from power so he could more quickly escalate up the totem pole, if you will. And also, he also kind of made his own little pseudo security group while the head governor was out. So when the governor came back, he was quickly thrown out as well. So while trying to make this whole rebellion thing work for him, the Daleks have in the meantime been recreating themselves in massive numbers inside the pod without anyone knowing until the scientist actually goes in there to have a look. Because he keeps hearing about bigger and bigger numbers of Daleks that are actually working and running around the entire facility. I believe he heard at least 4, or if not 5, before finally having to go in there and have a look for himself, and he sees the assembly line. Not only the assembly line for making the outer shells, but also seeing the nasty squiggly things that get put inside. So he now also realizes not only are they being mass-produced, but they are mass-produced living creatures inside of machines. And they're definitely not even remotely humanoid at this point. So the basic ploy goes down that since they also want the inspector out of the way, the doctor gets locked up, although the head of the rebellion also realizes who the doctor really is as a fake, because he's the one that murdered the original inspector, and thought that the doctor wouldn't be as much of a problem. Guess wrong. After escaping, the doctor also gets the other second-in-command out, who was also in prison, to try and get him out of the way. And they go about trying to essentially set up eventually the plan to stop the Daleks, but not before a big final act attack with the Daleks versus the rebels and the security guards. The Daleks pretty much end up on top as predicted until the Doctor employs his plan to essentially fry them. I can't remember all the exact details for the very end, but that's basically how it falls down. The Doctor is obviously let go because he helped the right people and got the Dalek menace stopped and put under control. And upon leaving, the Doctor goes in. Ben and Polly do remark on the fact that they finally do believe that he is the Doctor now. And there's actually a dead Dalek outside by the TARDIS, to which Ben's final remark was, well, at least this one won't be alive anymore. Kicks the Dalek, and as they enter the TARDIS and it starts to take off, the Dalek stalk actually moves and looks at the TARDIS, hinting to other possibilities for the Daleks, and some of which we may have already witnessed in the series, since the Daleks also are time travelers themselves now, to some degree. And that about covers my summary.
Now, I'm gonna respond to the last thing you said before I say what I was actually going to say about this episode, and that is, if you really pay attention to all of the Dalek episodes that have come up to this point, it's very interesting because the Daleks know who the Doctor are. The Daleks know who the Doctor is, rather. Yet chronologically, this is the earliest Dalek appearance up to this point.
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
Because if
Dalek Invasion of Earth came first.
Yes, it would have.
No, it wouldn't, because
yes,
Dalek Invasion of Earth was the 22nd century, whereas according to the trail...
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't it 2100 something?
I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know for a fact that Earth had not yet colonized out into space, Bill. This is a colony in space from Earth.
Yes, but it's a colony in space that, according to the trailer created by the BBC, is in the year 2020. Whereas the Dalek Invasion of Earth... Which is,
by the way, a big problem with early Doctor Who continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dalek Invasion of Earth, according to it, occurred sometime after 2164.
I think the year might have been streamlined for the movie version, if I'm thinking right. Because my brain is saying like 2150, but I don't know if that's right.
Let me have a look. Images.
I might be completely off my rocker on that one.
No, it's the basically in the episode, in one of the episodes of Dalek Invasion of Earth, they find a calendar. That's 2164.
But Bill is right. The Dalek movie did say 2150 AD.
Probably because it's easier to say that in a trailer or on a poster.
Then 2165, yeah. Or 2265. Either way.
So if you believe the trailer to this episode and that calendar, Power of the Daleks is the earliest Dalek appearance up to this point.
Trailer for the episode?
I haven't seen it, but the sources that I've seen said that there was a trailer for this that aired on the BBC, saying that it took place in the year 2020.
Not necessarily canonical.
That's mostly just the BBC putting out something,
right.
I think.
Because that could just be an announcer bozo making up a date too.
Gotcha. Like Matt and I were kind of.
Yeah, I wasn't sure under what circumstances that
like,
number was coming from either. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and we were saying that just since it came from the BBC, we should kind of count it just like we'd count a mini-sode in New Who era. But then again, they're obviously a lot more.
I would have to see the context of it.
Yeah, we would have to really see the context
scene,
to be
sure. Or was
sure.
it just?
It was most likely a narrator.
Yeah, because if it's just coming up next on BBC One, the Doctor goes to the year 2020 and fights the Daleks. As far as you know, he just made up that date on the spot.
Because it sounded nice. So
that's where the argument of whether or not Word of God counts more than the context of the episode, and
from the context of the episode, I would definitely place this as happening much later than the Dalek Invasion of Earth.
I would hardly.
It would make sense for it to do so.
I would hardly think that Joe Announcer would be considered Word of God.
Yeah. I think the Word of God would be the creators of the actual episode.
That his dialogue, if he didn't make it up on the spot, was handed to him by somebody not related to the Doctor Who production staff. Word of God is considered the production staff of that time.
Yes.
Okay.
The writer, the director, the script editor, and the producer.
So if we go off of just this episode, if we go off of only the episodes, then my comment kind of falls apart.
Yes.
Because yes, it is fairly reasonable to assume that
this
either
is much
the
later in
chase
time,
or the or the invasion, or hell, you can even say that we have no reason not to think that it's set after the year 4000, in which case the Doctor could have foiled the Daleks' master plan by this point.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell. I think that's one of the reasons they stopped using dates more often than not.
Yeah, they might give vague hints to centuries, but only vague.
Yeah, because they kind of realized they started fucking up when shit happened.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, if I was to guess, I would assume this is well after Dalek Invasion of Earth. And it's also very easy to assume that despite an entire planet invasion, eventually the invasion became legend, legend became rumor, rumor became myth, etc. until the Daleks were forgotten many centuries later by these people out in space. Because we haven't seen the Daleks, they don't exist. Daleks!
Yeah, it's especially with Dalek history gets really freaking convoluted because Skaro from the Daleks was supposed to be a long time into the future. I mean, like long time, like millions of years.
Although, I do like how the Dalek handbook retconned that, I believe, into saying that the Doctor just got the date wrong. Whereas I've seen other things, and it might have even been in the Dalek handbook as well, I don't remember, but I've seen other sources that said that the Daleks themselves left Skaro whereas this was just a group of mutated survivors that found Dalek casings and went in them to survive.
That's a bunch of hokey.
This meaning the serial, the Daleks, not.
Yeah, that's a bunch of hokey baloney. Yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah, there's.
I mean that would make sense.
There are too many real Daleks that they would have been wiped out way sooner.
I mean, the argument for that is essentially that this is set well after any Dalek appearance, plus the fact that they don't act like any other Dalek that we see in the series. So I can kind of buy that.
Chronologically, for the Daleks, this might have happened after Evil of the Daleks.
Right.
Because they recognized the Doctor's second form, and as far as we're aware, he only faced them twice.
Yeah, and they're obviously playing, and you can tell that they're looking at him an awful lot, and apparently recognize him.
Twice, right?
What was that, Bill?
I was asking Randy. He means the second Doctor only faced him twice, right?
Yeah. Troughton only faced him twice, unless there's like novels or there won't be Big Finish audio adventures with him because he was dead by the time Big Finish started.
Well,
companion chronicles.
Yeah, but unless they have them and you're counting those, he only faced the Daleks in Power and Evil, because the next time they showed up was Day of the Daleks.
And then Terry Nation took them into America and went nowhere with them.
Went nowhere with them because he forgot Dalek Mania was only in Britain. We didn't get a hint of Dalek Mania until about the 80s. So, yeah, sorry, Terry.
The fact it is actually listed on the TARDIS Wikia that the story is set in the year 2020 is a myth.
Oh.
Ooh. Ba-boom.
It lists that it is stated in a trailer, but is not confirmed on screen. So pretty much.
Oh yeah. So basically, exactly what we said.
What we just said was that
we're but they actually
taking
call
that
it
with
a
massive grain of salt. The size of Everest.
I would more call that a debatable or disputed fact than a myth in and of itself, because the fact that they stated so in the trailer is not a myth.
Yeah, no, they stated in the trailer is not a myth, but the fact is that if you created it as 2020, it doesn't stack up with any other part of history, and it's not specifically said in the series.
Okay. And to go off of that kind of, well, very loosely brings back to what Matt was saying about it being after the invasion, to which to loosely quote Matt Smith, you don't remember the Daleks invading Earth?
The Cybermen? The Titanic almost hitting the palace? Come on, you gotta remember something!
Yeah,
I was always a little slightly miffed at Moffat about that, but...
It seems the time stream exists specifically to make people
erase itself every time a new production staff takes over.
Just about. And that does start to annoy someone at one point. Namely, people like me and Randy.
So those of us who grew up with copies of continuity Bibles in our hands.
And will willingly wield them as weapons over your head if you start screwing it up. I have a copy of Hitchhiker's Guide. It's hardcover. It's the size of a Bible. I will hit you with that.
We'll see if they start paying attention to that in the new Capaldi era.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Arms crossed, angry glare. Look at you, Moffat. Look at you.
Yeah. So really, the big thing about this episode is Troughton proving himself to be the Doctor.
Yeah, and this is really. I almost ignore the plot to this episode because it is really the most meta Doctor Who episode you will ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's not about the story.
Yeah,
it's about
the Doctor.
You. Yeah, it's about the audience being Ben and Polly arguing about who this short guy is.
Yes, they're trying to sell it to the Doctor because this was make or break it. This was, if it didn't come off well. Nobody was going to buy it. Yeah, and this would have been the last season of the show.
And as a result,
obviously,
Ben and Polly seem to have more personality than I've ever seen them with otherwise.
They are pretty bland as companions go. I mean, really, that was a problem with the first Doctor era companions following the original 3? Is most of them were
well,
like...
You could say the original 4 because I've seen a lot of praise for Vicky.
I still think she was pale compared to Susan.
Yeah. She was alright, but she was no Susan.
Yeah. Because, yeah, those 3 kind of set the standard.
Considering that the last story I watched with Susan in it was The Reign of Terror, I don't take that as an insult to Vicky.
Reign of Terror. Reign of Terror.
Reign of Terror is the one where Susan decided that she didn't like rats, so she'd rather face the guillotine than dig her way out where there might be rats.
Ugh.
I think
right, okay, yeah, now I'm remembering French, yeah.
Who was it that the Doctor once said that they needed a good smack bottom?
I think he mentioned that to maybe Barbara.
No, it was either Susan or Vicky. And it's like considered to be the worst line that Hartnell ever said.
It sounds so awkward. I'm kind of hoping it was Vicky just to make it even more awkward.
Probably was, because I kind of get the impression if it were Susan, he would just do it.
Being the grumpy grandfather, yeah.
And watch this week on Doctor Who as William Hartnell beats up his granddaughter.
And that's for not running away from the Daleks in time! When I say run, run. Run!
None of the search results are about a specific episode, so I have to open them up and try and find that.
And on this week's episode of Crossovers That Should Never Happen, Lin Minmay becomes the worst companion ever for the Doctor.
Oh, Doctor!
You're gonna have
Snack.
You're gonna have to explain who that one is.
It's a character from old 80s cartoon called Robotech. It is.
Did I break Matt?
I think I broke Matt with that one, yes. She is known
Like
as having the world's worst singing voice and being basically annoying for the entire run of the American version of the show.
She's also very popularly known for saying, "Oh, Rick," and getting smacked a lot. Oh, the times.
I'm seeing quotes of it, but it won't say what the episode was from.
What?
The smack bottom line?
Smack bottom quote?
Yeah.
I remember hearing it. I can't remember what episode I was watching when I heard it, and I'm just like, wow, that's a little harsh there, Bill.
Bill came off a little harsh every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah. Bill Hartnell, proponent of child abuse.
Actually, it looks like this. I'm thinking.
We here at the Unearthly Podcast do not condone child abuse, but we do find it, however, slightly entertaining under right circumstances.
Dalek invasion of Earth, so probably Susan.
Okay.
So it was to Susan. So, yeah, he was kind of in the right, maybe.
In the same episode where he set her up with a guy and said, now go, marry him and be fruitful.
Wow! He was full of awkward, that story.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I think that's the difference between, like, episode 1 or episode 2 and episode 6 of the serial.
Wow, that had to be one of the most awkward stories. Which story was that?
A sharp contrast for one story. Good God.
What story was that?
The Dalek invasion of Earth.
Wow, really?
I think they cut that line out of, I think they cut that line out of the movie.
Well, Cushing was a completely different Doctor than Hartnell.
Yeah. And Susan was like a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old or something in the movies.
Oh, that would have made it worse.
Yeah, the Susan in the movies was slightly younger than the one that we're aware of in the TV show. And I'm pretty sure Cushing would not have done such a line. Oh, and the Go and Prosper thing. Oh god, that would have been extremely awkward. Thankfully, they did not leave Susan behind in the movie. Thank goodness for that.
I don't think did they leave anyone behind in the movie. He left with all of.
They dropped the police officer guy back off where they picked him up.
That's
so
Bernard
he could
Cribbins?
catch the robber.
Was that Bernard Cribbins? Or
Yes.
Which one was Bernard Cribbins? Okay.
Yeah, that was
Cribbins.
Wilf.
Yes.
That was Wilf. In the early days.
Yep.
After he got back from the Middle East at the end of the war. Go Wilf. Wilf is awesome.
But yeah, the basically the point of this episode is whether or not this guy is the Doctor. You have Ben and Polly playing up the two different sides, arguing about it.
And the rest of it's just a vehicle for him to prove himself.
Yeah, and the Daleks pretty much confirm it. And of course, by the Daleks recognizing him as the Doctor in this type of story, you know that pretty much is saying, okay, obviously he's not going to beat them.
Yep. You know, I had a lot more respect for the Victory of the Daleks episode before I saw this. Because I realized how much of their lines and dialogue was basically stolen from this episode.
And the sad thing is, like, rewatching this, I feel like I'm not even so mad that they stole it. It's that they stole it and didn't do it as well.
Yeah, it's the fact that they didn't do it any justice. Borrowing those ideas so liberally.
They stole the idea and deconstructed it, which is kind of... Yeah. Didn't kind of do...
It's like they took the idea, but didn't use it...
properly.
In a satisfying way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because in Victory of the Daleks, it is the Victory of the Daleks. They won. The Doctor is able to keep them from, destroying the planet, but they get what they wanted and leave. It's really a deconstruction of most of what the standard Doctor Who plot, where, the Daleks try something and the Doctor defeats them and they go scampering off with their tail between their legs, so to speak.
The fact that what they wanted was to scamper off with their tail between their legs, and that's what their victory was, doesn't strike terror into my heart.
What they wanted was the progenation device.
Which they got it, and they got it activated, and they got what they wanted.
A new string of Daleks to basically wind up being background characters for the following 2-3 seasons.
But, I look at the power of the Daleks, and I think back on that scene, I am the Doctor and you are the Daleks, and I think how much better it could have been used if it was actually in an episode that was trying to do the same thing as Power of the Daleks.
The problem
like if it actually were something like regeneration or something of that nature.
The problem then is you're retreading old ground. You're basically remaking the same episode. And
to be fair, as soon as they said "I am your soldier," they were remaking the same episode.
Yeah.
But it's still not the overall same plot. If they were making the exact same episode, 50 years, nearly 50 years later, even so, some of the fan base would be a little annoyed by that. They have taken stories from other works and done them, such as, Human Nature, Family of Blood, but when they did, they retooled them. Dalek, probably considered to be the greatest episode of Series 1, is retooled from an audio adventure called Jubilee.
And speaking of Dalek, I've seen... I think this was in the Big Finish listeners group on Facebook, but I've seen people talk about Dalek as also being a partial remake of Power of the Daleks, and I can kind of see that in that they don't really understand what the Dalek is, whereas the Doctor's saying, this is a threat, and no one believes him.
Yeah.
But
it's a really dumbed down version of that, though, too.
Yeah, I could.
So I wouldn't see it as necessarily a complete and total copy either.
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's a little too simplified.
I can imagine that this might have inspired part of Jubilee or part of Dalek, but that other than
actually,
that,
it's more directly taken from Jubilee. Some of the dialogue where the Doctor's talking to the lone Dalek is pretty much almost verbatim from Jubilee. It was also written by the same guy.
Well, like I could who's that? That was Shearman, right?
Yeah.
And I could see Shearman as having been inspired by Power of the Daleks when he wrote probably some of the scenes of the Doctor speaking with the humans, trying to convince them how dangerous the Dalek is.
It's possible that he was.
It's not necessarily a rip-off just because of that.
No.
Or a remake or anything of that nature.
No. And even, the whole I am your servant lines or your soldier lines in Victory, making that, I wouldn't find that by itself to be a direct ripoff. But the fact that they have to go through the whole thing up to the point of the, I'm the Doctor and you are the Daleks, when you steal that much, yeah.
Then we obviously know where you got your stuff from, and boo on you.
Pretty much the first half of Victory of the Daleks is a watered down remake of the first half of Power of the Daleks, or maybe not the first half, but the first 2 episodes or so.
Yeah, and the fact, and from there it goes on to try to deconstruct itself, and basically the ultimate payoff is, of course, the Sentai Daleks. I will always call them the Sentai Daleks.
And speaking of which,
saving the world with the power of love.
Oh, I can't find them now. Sure, you bring that up again. And, oh, there it is. There it is. It's on stream now.
Found it.
What is it?
Someone actually made Power Rangers Dalek picture.
And,
Go Dalek Rangers.
If anybody's watching, can you point out, is that the Power Rangers SPD logo retooled for Daleks? Because I think it actually, I can always Google that myself. I don't really need someone to respond. I just Google it.
But yeah, it's sharing the image for Randy.
I was trying to get onto the stream.
This was faster.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the SPD logo retooled.
Okay. Yeah.
Someone finally did something at least.
See, I never thought that. I always thought of the classic "we need dinosaur power now" routine with the Daleks. But then again, by the time SPD was out, I was no longer having to annually do
well, I'm just saying the logo. I'm just saying the logo itself, and that's probably they probably chose it as the easiest logo to adapt, and that's probably why, because it's a shield with words on it. It's easy to change the words and cover that without doing a lot of fancy photoshopping. So that's probably why they chose it.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad I'm not the only one that had that immediate reaction to.
Well, it's taken them a while to even get that picture out.
But yeah, because the first time I saw that episode, I'm just like, oh my god, it's the freaking Power Rangers as Daleks. It was just, the immediate reaction was, oh my god, like eye roll level of pain.
But
I'm one of the few people that actually saw both of the movies, and I went, oh, actually, they're doing the color version of the Daleks again. Sweet.
There's only really one team, or well, arguably 2 teams that actually work with calling these Sentai Daleks, and that's either going with Die Ranger / Mighty Morphin Season 2, or going with Kaku Ranger / Mighty Morphin Season 3, because each of those are led by a White Ranger, and this is led by the Supreme White Dalek.
Which annoys me, because the Dalek Supreme is supposed to be black.
There is meant to be a black Dalek, yes.
The Black Dalek has always been the Dalek Supreme. Go watch every Doctor Who serial. Ever since they came up with the concept of the Black Dalek.
The only exception is the Imperial Daleks.
Yes, if it's the Emperor's right hand, he's a red Dalek, and the black Dalek answers to the red Dalek.
Well, I meant when the black Daleks.
There is a hierarchy of rank here, and it's not what they used in that.
The black Daleks were the renegades. The white Daleks were the Imperial, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a completely different matter, and not all of them.
Well,
the black
that's
Dalek
what I'm
was
saying.
the leader of it.
That's the only time that the black Dalek is not going to be in charge. Pretty much, is the Imperial Daleks.
Yes. And the black Dalek was just leading the renegades. The rest of the renegades were gray, like the traditional Genesis of the Daleks gray style.
I think there was a blend of black and gray depending on how high up the hierarchy they were.
I didn't think so. I thought they
were I would literally have to sit down and watch all the Dalek episodes back to back.
But yes, if you'll watch it, the black Dalek is traditionally the Dalek Supreme. The only few times that we had the red Dalek was though you couldn't see it, the reuses of the movie Daleks in the black and white. I think starting with Master Plan and on.
Something like that.
The Chase.
The Chase.
Possibly Master Plan as well.
Okay, so
and Master Plan.
But then we also had some colored Daleks in Day of the Daleks, and that's where you first, I think, see that the black Dalek answers to the red Dalek, who's usually not a field Dalek. He's usually in central command somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like they had the red Dalek that interacted directly with Davros in Journey's
Although
End.
I think at that point, in that one, the red Dalek answered to the gold Dalek. So
might have. There was.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen Day of the Daleks. It's not one I have on DVD. So the last time I saw it was somewhere in the 80s. If we ever do a stream of Dalek review episodes, that's one I'll have to watch again because it's been too long. But yeah, if there was a gold Dalek in there, that would have been your yellow Dalek from this. And he's definitely inferior to the white one in the hierarchy too, so I saw their stream of this stuff and I'm like, the fuck?
Oh, and on top of that, Cult of Skaro was led by the Black Dalek as well.
Yes, he was. Yes, it was. Black. The field leader of the Cult of Skaro was a Black Dalek, who eventually became the human Dalek and was killed by the others.
Because he was no longer pure.
Yep. So, yeah, that's how that much worked, and that's kind of screwed up in my part. But we were talking about power.
Yeah, we just went on a 20-minute rant about Dalek colors in a black and white episode.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm. But I think they were still using the same models in this one. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
They had to heavily recycle a lot of the Dalek chassis.
I know the converted one from the Chase appeared in here. I'm not sure what the other ones were from.
Okay, because
they constantly reused as many Daleks as they could, as long as they weren't damaged heavily.
Yeah, I could not watch the production stills for this because they annoyed me to no end.
See, I really liked the one that I found, so I actually was paying attention.
Speaking of those, since
I actually listened to this episode playing Civ. Yeah. Go ahead.
But this is one of the episodes on occasion the BBC would pay a photographer who pretty much, I'm pretty sure this was essentially what they did for a living, which was to essentially point a camera at the TV while it's playing the episode and take photographs every few seconds. I'm blanking on
no, that's not how they did
proper term for that.
The photographer was on set.
It was on set?
Yeah.
Yeah, photographers were on set for these things.
Then I must have read a faulty description, because I know the last description I read pretty much said that they pointed a camera at the television and took.
Well, that might have been how one person maybe way back in the day kept pictures, but that's not where all the pictures came from.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pictures were actually on set.
Yeah, because they also have several behind-the-scenes pictures done by the same artist. So,
As a matter of fact, there are actually a couple of color pictures because they were able to actually still do still frame color back then.
From Power of the Daleks, or you mean?
Yeah, there's even a couple from Power of the Daleks that I'm seeing occasionally here.
I know. I know what you're referring to because the Marco Polo reconstruction I have, they used the color photos and then tried to reuse a whole serial to match them, and I wasn't particularly a fan of that because I'm sitting down to watch a black and white serial and I'm getting strange colors.
Well, for instance, I'm going to zoom in for the audience who are watching on first, but for instance, there's this picture, which I think is actually a double picture. Okay. But that looks to be pretty official. Matter of fact, I see stagehands reaching in to mess with that Dalek.
Is he wearing a kilt?
No, those are his pants. He had striped pants.
I can't tell if that's the blue shirt from the Three Doctors or if that's just the lighting.
No, it's not. The shirt they got for the Three Doctors was a darker blue.
Yeah.
Fans have pointed that out, that the shirt color was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's too light to be the same one from Three Doctors. Not to mention, I don't think he had the same suspenders either.
No. I don't think he was... Was he wearing suspenders in the Three Doctors? If so, they weren't nearly as loud.
I don't think they're as blatantly out either. I think he had a jacket on throughout most of the Three Doctors.
Yeah, he did.
Then again, this wouldn't have been quite as loud with a black and white camera.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they really... I mean, you know, that's things like the fact that the original TARDIS console was actually kind of a... avocado green. Yeah, blue greenish.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that color because that's what came across as pure white to black and white.
Oh, matter of fact, as for that Dalek half of that picture, I just found the full picture now.
And we didn't realize the console was that color until early Third Doctor, because they didn't change the console until much later.
Right.
Yeah, so the fact that these are in color means that they had a color still camera on set taking pictures.
Yep.
And that's also the case for Marco Polo.
But the ones used for the reconstruction, the photos from that are black and white.
That could have been photos that someone managed to digitize over the years from the original photo.
Or was it from the Crusade? I don't know. One of them I've seen full color pictures from.
I know Marco Polo had color pictures, a lot of color pictures. They really loved taking color pictures for that because that was a really good, expensive episode.
A large focus of the episode was the sets.
It was the sets and the costuming. The special costuming for that episode, too.
So they had a color photographer come in and take a lot of those stills.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a tradition that they kept every now and again. And this time, I think they wanted the pictures because it was Troughton's first episode.
Well, I'm also thinking that maybe someone just snuck on set with a color picture, with a color.
I don't think so. It's still too early for that to be fairly common because color cameras in 1967 were freaking expensive. So no, it would have had to have been a professional. I think what was happening was they were taking these color pictures to possibly find pictures they like and distribute to magazines.
True.
Things like the Radio Times and other stuff might have actually wanted full color pictures of basically Troughton's first serial. Whether it was hit or miss, that didn't matter at that point. They would have wanted, pictures.
They would have wanted pictures to at least see what was going on, and oh my God, Daleks!
Yeah, that was the other thing. Daleks were always a big draw to get ratings.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had a few color pictures of Daleks out there, they were gonna use them to help bring in the audience.
This is kind of an unrelated thought. But it was related to something that was in my head, and I just realized we've talked about Star Trek in this podcast
A few
But we
times.
haven't talked about the elephant in the room when it comes to this particular serial on Star Trek.
Vulcan?
Yeah.
You realize that there's actually a planet in the solar system by that name, don't you? Well, planetoid. Asteroid, I think.
Not particularly surprised. It is the name of a Roman god.
Exactly.
Yeah, not particularly surprising. It just so happens that one fantasy version of it is a little more popular than some of the other real-life versions of it.
I am of the opinion that Doctor Who and Star Trek do not take place within the same type space continuum, and therefore two different planets.
No, even in their crossover, they clearly stated that they were essentially from two different universes.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't be surprised. It's not the first time that happened to either of them.
Yeah. In this case, it's a rather large coincidence that two major sci-fi shows came up with the name Vulcan within months of each other.
Not really.
And within
when you
years
go
of each
looking
other.
for names of planets, you look. I think Star Trek used it better because theirs was a hot desert planet, and this was mostly swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sulfur swamp, right?
Sulfur swamp, yes.
No? Okay, well, no, sulfur swamp.
I think there were weren't there
Mercury swamp?
Mercury, yeah, Mercury actually, yeah.
They do like to tie Mercury in with Dalek episodes in this era for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like the second time at least.
Although including Mercury in the first Regeneration episode is kind of a bit of symbolic brilliance there.
To a degree.
There's nothing more mercurial than completely changing your face and personality.
Okay, I was slightly wrong. The planet Vulcan is hypothetical.
Oh, okay.
In Earth's solar system, it is a planet that physicists have proposed exists in an orbit between Mercury and the Sun.
Yeah.
It's what the physicists are using it to try to explain certain peculiarities in Mercury's orbit.
Oh, okay.
They've tried searching for it.
They're basically saying it behaves as though there's another ball of mass orbiting.
Yeah, there's a wobble. There's a wobble in the orbit.
Oh, not orbital wobble.
Well, that's how they found Pluto.
I know, but orbital wobble has
bad connotations for fans and reviewers if you ever watch Spoonie or Highlander movies.
Yes.
This could be orbital wobble. Smack.
Hey, it is an actual physical phenomenon.
Yes, but the entire point of the review in that particular movie. The thing that most of us remember orbital wobble for is the fact that that's not the right answer at all.
Regardless of how valid your use of it is. There's only one movie I hate more than The Source.
Well, in this case, it is the correct terminology because the distance between Mercury and its orbital path is basically momentarily moved.
Although,
and
on that note, I believe that around this time, around the time this serial was released, there were comics coming out saying that Skaro was in our solar system as well. So,
that was always considered a possibility by some of the fans, but if you ever watched the shows, no, it wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
Skaro was like way off in the other end of the universe, like
kind of deal,
not even in the same galaxy. So, yeah, that's false.
No, I mean it's false canonically, but I mean there were comics released, I believe, around this time that actually claimed that.
Yeah, and that was people that did not do the research.
Or did not care.
Warning, Dalek crossing.
Yep.
Anywho, we are closing
Anyway,
in on our last 10 minutes. Anything else we wanted to cover?
let's see. Yeah, the fact that the episode's missing annoys the hell out of me.
Right.
It would be, yeah, it would be great if we could
really
find more
hard
of
to
this.
watch production stills because watching still images, I tend to start tuning out.
See, the version I watched actually had some narration to help speed things up a little bit, so you weren't
That
constantly waiting on
doesn't help
paused
me.
images.
That doesn't help me.
It helped me a lot, so different strokes.
I can, deal with it with Big Finish because their episodes are particularly well written so that you understand what's going on in the dialogue. But yeah, this one occasionally, I wound up playing Civ 3 while listening to this.
And again, this is meant to be an actual video, not to actually be an audio like Big Finish is.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying I kind of my thoughts on it are a little lower because of that. I know there's been some attempts to animate this. Most of them has been pretty crappy.
Well, one in particular was absolutely wretched and horrible, and I listened to maybe 5 minutes before I'm like, no, the audio is so horrible, the visuals are so god awful, no, stop it, and turned it off. When you can't even get a single second right of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Done.
Yeah. The technical term for these specific style is telesnaps. I finally found the article on TARDIS Data Core. The photographer's name was John Cura, or Cura, C-U-R-A, and he would take I just saw the interval. His damn it. I just saw the interval of how often he took photos, and now I'm not seeing it. But it does say he took photographs of the transmission, and that his camera took images at the PAL frame rate. So that indicates that he was taking photos of the actual television for the actual ones that are seen in the reconstruction. So he might have also done the color ones as well.
So yeah, he probably did the color ones, but he might have occasionally also taken actual live camera feed pictures too.
His method. Yeah, okay. The guy that does the telesnaps, he did a 35mm camera at a television and shoot. Normally, he'd take around 60 photographs for a half-hour episode.
So yeah, that would be every 30 seconds essentially then. If it's an actual half hour, which I don't think they really were, so it might have been more frequent.
Those would have been great to make like ViewMaster copies of the episode.
Oh yeah. That would have been brilliant. Do they still have those? Like,
I've seen them on sale again lately. Yeah, they have ViewMaster
they've been making
stuff.
A comeback.
They're coming back again.
I haven't seen
one
of those.
Nobody thought of that.
About almost 20 years.
Yeah, just when you think they're about to die, all of a sudden they just come back in a massive wave. Same with creepy crawlers.
Creepy crawlers.
I've been seeing creepy crawler machines again too.
Yeah, but you'd think those telesnaps would have been perfect for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they would have.
Especially if they're done high enough quality, those would have been wonderful. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, I don't know if ViewMaster was as big over in England as it was here.
Well, it also depends upon the time period, though, too. I don't think ViewMaster quite hit stride way back then, either.
No, but it hit its stride in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, from the 70s until the 80s, it had a huge, nice stride there.
Related to this is one note on here. A telesnap is never in color, as Cura died just before the beginning of color television in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it was one guy that did all the telesnaps.
So that was pretty much his trademark style, that nobody else did it the same way.
Mm-hmm. That's how he got the most amount of pictures, I would assume, too.
Yeah, I remember being at a store and I saw ViewMaster stuff on sale.
I saw another one.
What?
This one's a little more like it. Power Daleks.
See, I always think of the picture where you've got, like, the one in the middle and then one in each corner. Like, their morphing thing.
Right.
It's always how I've always thought of, seen them in my head. Anyway. So, thoughts.
Yeah,
like
I think it's technically
this is really hard for me because of the fact that the lack of video kind of hurts. I would actually prefer to read the novelization more than I would to try to listen to the audio by itself.
Yeah, maybe. It might also clear up a few things, too.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to comment on things like acting and cinematography. Everything sounded okay, but I can't really tell otherwise.
I mean, just looking at the photography... Oh, then again, you said you mainly just listen. But just looking at the photography, I can kind of get some idea of where the cinematography is going. But like I mentioned to Matt off air at one point, it's a lot less effective when you have a Dalek staring someone down, but it's a still image. So whereas in an actual episode, the camera would probably be zooming in menacingly on that eye, in the still image, you'd get them pretty much just sitting there lazily staring at the camera.
Yeah, it just doesn't it doesn't work well for me, and the still images bother me because it's not coinciding with what's going on. It's either before or after or something, and it's just my brain goes. It's like trying to watch a show that you don't have enough bandwidth for.
I wish I could find the version of this that I first watched, where they pretty much animated the telesnaps to make it as close to what the real episode would have looked like as possible.
And it'd have to have a lot of time and effort added into it too in order to do that.
Right.
I would love. I mean, I don't know if the BBC is planning on having people like Planet 55 do all the missing episodes in animation.
Well, I did see a one or two that looked like there might have been something similar to Planet 55, but I can't be sure if that was an official thing or if that was just a fan thing.
But if they did,
yes,
because I can stand watching the animated versions, even if it's not the greatest animation.
Right.
It's
but at least
still
it's something.
People are moving and talking, and it's I can keep my attention on it.
I think what makes something like this a little less likely is for like the 10th Planet, they needed one episode out of a 4-parter, so they needed to just animate one episode. Whereas here, that's 6 episodes they would need to animate, so that's going to cost substantially more.
True, but also the fact that 55 is now moving over to Britain if things don't get changed soon. Yeah, they might actually be able to afford them a little bit better if they can actually reach out to them a lot faster.
I don't know. I just like to see it done. I'd like to see all of this stuff animated. And, if they're worried about it, animate them and re-air them.
Yeah, if nothing else, re-air it and see what people think of it on air.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll make your money there as well as the DVD release afterwards.
Air it, call it Doctor Who: The Missing Episodes, and basically run series of missing serials.
So how
Saturday
did you guys
mornings.
think of this as the first episode to introduce the new star of the show?
It worked for that. That's was its purpose, and it succeeded.
Very much so.
Of course, Troughton is very much not. He's a much, I'd say, more subdued version of the Troughton that we'd eventually get with.
Yeah, he's very subdued. He doesn't
really
quite.
Has his footing.
He doesn't know he doesn't know quite where the character is going to be going. His version of the character. But for what it was a very nice introduction. He's still piecing things together, but he becomes very much a doctor by the halfway mark, and he's just pulling things together and figuring it all out.
And that really works even better for modern fans. I mean, it probably worked fairly well in the 60s, but it works... I mean, now we're used to the idea of post-regenerative trauma, a little bit of amnesia, a little bit of identity crisis, so this fits perfectly into what we think a post-regenerative doctor would be like as well. So that
at least slightly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what little I could gather of the images, yeah, it looked like they were definitely putting some effort into it. There was obviously a good number of actors who got some actual screen time and real lines, so they were definitely pulling out some extra effort and time and money into this one. Also, I really liked the idea of the Daleks trying to keep hush-hush that they're multiplying themselves again, while trying to keep everyone else at bay with the thought that, oh, they're just robots under control. They're fine.
Mm-hmm.
When they really quickly are becoming not under control, very obviously.
Right. They're kind of the Decepticons in this.
Yes.
I kind of like the scene where the Doctor is pretty much going to the... I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Doctor and the head scientist. He's pretty much, he's like, there were only 3 Daleks, weren't there? Yes, why? I just saw 4.
I just saw one in the...
That's not a direct quote.
1 in the governor's office and 3 in the hallway.
Yeah, that's closer to the direct quote.
And then you get the little aside stuff with just the Daleks where you hear them scheming and they're like, no more than 3 of us in one place at one time. Got it? Got it. Got it.
Yeah, I remember hearing that and going, too late.
Too late. A couple of people already noticed.
I gotta say one thing about this episode, and it kind of just, I guess, just kind of deflates the episode. You hear the title, like, The Power of the Daleks, and you think power as in,
they're going to unleash some new, big, nasty weapon of some sort. And
power as in they need portable batteries.
Yeah.
Although it was nice to harken back to the old Daleks require static electricity.
Yes, and to up the idea of how they get the static from.
Mm-hmm. At least it wasn't something like, well, these Daleks are now getting 30 gallons to the soul.
Getting 30 gallons to the soul. By the way, all these squares make a circle.
That would be a Moffat mod where the Daleks are basically just sucking the souls of people in to use as their power source. Even though that had not been anything that happened previously, and then the next episode would never hear from it again.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, Moffat would do that, but I would kind of more, that would be a direct continuation to some of the mythology that, as far as I can tell, was introduced in the RTD era with, for example, Captain Jack overfeeding the monster with life energy. I'm pretty sure nothing like that really existed in Who before the RTD era. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe overpowering something. Well, 10th Planet.
Okay, I can. Okay.
10th Planet. They kept giving it what it wanted and overpowered it. Kaboom!
It's not as explicit. It's kind
of. It's not as explicit, nor is it just a single creature, but it's still the exact same idea.
It's the forebear of that idea.
Yes.
Okay.
10th Planet.
Yeah,
they
I actually have to see if that's addressed in a 3rd or 4th Doctor episode anywhere. It might be. It might be used to an extent in Horns of Niemann. Maybe.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've seen that episode.
So there's little examples here and there, Bill, but not.
I do remember them overloading them.
Quite like that.
I think they were using some kind of bioenergy drain.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I don't recall though.
We are now running 6 minutes over, so should we start doing final numbers then?
Any of you have anything left to say about it?
Not particularly.
That's
all right.
Pretty much it.
So I guess I'll go first since I mentioned numbers. Definitely a very good second Doctor episode, although he's not quite the second Doctor we know and love. It'll take at least a few episodes, if not a year or so, before he gets fully into those shoes and goes wild with it. It's still a fairly decent Dalek episode from what little I've seen of it. If you prefer it sped up with narration, then by all means seek out the version I saw on YouTube. Just a reminder, though, that the last episode is missing, so you'll have to find another source for that. But overall, I enjoyed it, my little sit through with it, and it did help for me at least for the narration. So, trying to think where to put it because there's almost as much really good as there is kind of meh. But at least it wasn't horrible by any standards, is the thing. So it's definitely above a 3. But I'm wondering if I should put it as high as a 4. And that's where I'm coming to a struggle.
For the record, I'm going to be giving 2 separate scores. One as the score where if we actually had the episode, and one is the score in its present form.
Actually, I would agree to that. I'll agree to that too.
I cannot do that, Bill, because I cannot know what it would be like with the full episode.
As a projection of how,
as a projection, as a thing with just still images where we can't say for sure, I would probably have to argue it at about a 3. But I'm almost certain that if we could actually get a finished product with real animation, acting, etc., that it would probably rate a little bit higher at least.
Right. And I would say.
But its current standard, I would say a 3.
In its present form, I'd give it a 3.5. The main boost being for what they do really with establishing this new Doctor. But I do believe that were we to be able to see it the way it aired, the way it was intended, I'd be giving it a 4.5. So in its present form, I have to say a 3.5. Still images are nowhere compared to what I would generally consider to be a 4 out of 5 serial.
Yeah.
I do feel that that's giving it the short end of the stick, considering how,
what this could
was
be.
when it was made.
Yeah, I actually have to give it a flat 3 at this point because I cannot tell what it would be like if I tried to give it, because I can't tell anything about direction, cinematography, any of that. I can't really tell from production stills.
And yeah, that 4.5 estimate is giving them the benefit of the doubt that the things that Randy's describing play out the way that I kind of envisioned them in my mind from looking at the stills. And I could be completely wrong, but I'd like to think that what I'm seeing at least is logical, especially seeing as how I'm not a professional in that.
But so I have to give it a 3, and I have to stick with it until I see a better version, until it's either found or animated or something.
Yes.
Because as it is, it's really hard for me to rate it on audio alone.
So with the current versions that we can find online with just the audio and images, it's landing about a 3.17 if you round it up. So it's still just a pinch better than average, but just by a pinch.
Yeah, it's really something.
And that pinch is pretty much the effort going into the writing of establishing this new Doctor, knowing that if they did it wrong, the show would have ended right there.
Yeah, if it was any worse for writing, it probably would have...
voices.
Yeah, and from what we get out of the acting from just the voices alone. So if it was any more lackluster in any writing or acting that we could tell from what little we have, that probably would have quickly fallen right off the scale, to be honest.
Yeah, if the voices or acting was flat, and some of the acting was flat, but none of the main cast.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I'd say Trout at times was flat, but intentionally so, when he's kind of being deceptive and
but
intentionally
at that point,
out.
that's actually not flat.
That's him overacting, trying to pretend to be flat and being snooty.
What I was talking about, some of the colony people were obviously just jobbers.
Yeah.
Oh,
they came in, they read their lines, they get paycheck. You know? There wasn't a lot of over the top. The leads were okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else was a jobber. Now, by lead,
you're saying both. Are you saying both the antagonist and protagonist, or just the protagonists when you say lead?
Both the scientist and the governor character. I forget if that was his name.
There's the governor, the second and third in command, the scientists, the Daleks, the Doctor, the companions.
Yeah,
would be very much considered the leads.
Yeah, I think I was okay with the governor, and I think I was okay with the scientist. The other one, the second, third in command, seemed a little bit jobby to me.
They seemed all right. Again, we would have to actually see full animation to figure them out completely.
Yep.
And the scientist aides seemed all right, although the one that got shot off early seemed kind of jobby. He didn't have much to him.
You know, still, that's the equivalent of a red shirt role. Captain, I found something. That's all the ones
dead.
I don't know. The Daleks are kind of flat. They didn't put much emotion in their voices.
That's the way they're supposed to be.
No.
You
can't
tell.
Do not make me
it's your
act
basic
something.
Dalek acting voice team of the era.
Yeah, no, it was a joke.
I just can't remember if that. I can't remember if this era was pre or with Roy Skelton, because he kind of became the Nick Briggs of his time.
And I'm typing the name into TARDIS Data Core right now. Handle should be giving me an answer in a few seconds.
And with that bombshell of his search taking too long, good night, everybody.
Oh, wait. No, tune in next week, hopefully, for, as we will then do Spearhead from Space.
Yes.
Which is the first Pertwee episode.
Roy Skelton had started at this point, but he did not do Daleks until Evil of the Daleks. So he did the Monoids in the Ark, Cybermen in the 10th Planet, and then Dalek and Evil of the Daleks.
Okay, so, yeah,
Apparently the last Doctor Who thing he did was Daleks for Curse of Fatal Death.
Yeah. Because you'll notice he's in there for, like, every other Dalek episode. He's not in there for Day, but he's in there for Planet. He's in there for... He's not in for Death, but Genesis, Destiny,
He's not there for Resurrection either.
As they go on their tangent, good night. See you all next week.
Yep. Spearhead from Space, Third Doctor.
Yep.
Some Pertwee in here. Alrighty, good night.